to Mr. Ayers America Spotlight on New and Emerging Authors. And it is my delight to be interviewing Katie Nguyen today, who is the author of this fantastic book, You Know What You Did. The debut came out earlier this year. It's a fantastic book, and I'm super excited to talk to Katie about her publishing journey. So, Katie,
thank you so much for having me on, John. Sorry.
Well, yeah, sure.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's my pleasure. This is a treat. I love your work and I love you, and why not get you on and show the rest of the world all that there is to love. I'd love to get a little bit of background about sort of your publishing journey. How did you come to write this book? What's the story behind the story a little bit?
Well, I started out working in magazines. I was an editorial. I worked at Glamour magazine, and I was interviewing people and covering various Fashion Week and different events. And I ended up learning how to craft a story through that process. I worked in the corporate world for a while. And then during the pandemic, I decided I was just, home and not traveling. I was consulting remotely. I wanted to do something more creative. And that's where this novel came from. I was reading tons of thrillers at the time, and it inspired me. So that's where You Know What You Did came from.
Did you, as you were sort of putting this book together, thinking about this book, did you, in many ways, I would certainly think of it as a psychological suspense. I'm not sure if that's how you categorize it, but it feels that way to me.
Would. Yeah.
Yeah. It's for me. Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot this important touch. Sorry. It's my MWA pin.
Oh.
Just ignore me. I'm just putting on my MWA pin. I love this pin. No, I love this pin. It's so cool. But please go on. I'm being very rude, John. I'm being very rude. Sorry.
I actually have a little board pin that I should be wearing anyway. I'm not wearing it for shame. What do you think is why psychological suspense, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I think the most fascinating and scariest thing that you could write about is other humans, what's going on in their minds and in their homes. So to me, that's way scarier than vampires or, werewolves or anything you could dream up, like the reality. And I think that's why people are so drawn to true crime. The reality and realistic fiction is what's actually scariest.
Yeah. I am deep in the Menendez biopic right now, and now I could feel like we're going to be doing sub viewing. We're going back to the trial videos, what's real, what's not, what are they not getting right about this. But ultimately, that story is a story about psychology. And I think in so many ways, this is why, your debut really resonated with me, is it is a book about human psychology. And you're 100% right. I think it is the scariest thing because it's actually very close to us. And so with that in mind, we've talked sort of broadly, talk specifically, what's the setup for the book so folks know what we're talking about?
Well, I like to describe it as a cross between The Shining and Celeste Ng. So it's kind of like psychological horror mixed with Asian American family drama. It's a little bit weird, but it's the story of Annie Shaw, who's the first generation Vietnamese American artist. And when her mother dies, she finds her life spiraling out of control. She has a dormant form of disgust-driven OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And after the death of her mother, it just takes over her life pretty much. The intrusive thoughts, the obsessive compulsive disorder. And she begins to question her reality when her worst thoughts and nightmares start to manifest themselves in real life. So that's the thriller aspect.
Yeah. I love that description. I had not thought, but yeah, that mixture. That's fascinating. Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. So I think that you deal with the book with a pretty potent and scary mother figure. Like, I think that had you ever, I always think about mother figures, I have scary mother figures in my own book, you know, and I think that, do you ever think about, there's sort of a gothic aspect to it. Did you think that is there in your mind a relationship between sort of the gothic and the psychological suspense, or is that just me?
There is, and I was actually reading some Shirley Jackson when I wrote this book, so it's interesting. Yeah, I think that the idea of mother-daughter legacy ideas, actions, intergenerational trauma, things that are passed down really have that kind of ghostly element, which I play with a bit in You Know What You Did. Definitely, I think there's that kind of really creepy gothic element. And I mean, what is scarier than the person who is meant to nurture and protect you if they turn on you? I don't think there's anything scarier than that.
Well, it's interesting, you know, not that we're going down this little avenue to the gothic, but we are going to take a little side trip, because I think that the gothic is often about, from my perspective, I don't think it's just my perspective, it's about like the domestic space turned dark and brooding, you know.
Yeah.
And so, of course, like, you know, relationships with parents, I mean, that's the domestic space turned in this sort of dark, uneasy, or menacing way. And I think that is where kind of a lot of psychological sense days sort of does dip into the gothic, which I'm here for, because I love that. And I definitely
like in this book too, the castle, the remote castle, is replaced with Annie and her mother's house in the middle of Ohio in a very desolate area. And it's just their isolation, the darkness, the creepiness. I can definitely see the gothic element there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, you know, because I think a lot of folks will be watching this video thinking about themselves as writers and wanting to, you know, hear a little bit about debut authors who may be just a little bit ahead of them on their publishing journey. You know, what sort of surprises did you have along the way? What, you know, exciting surprises you felt were positive? Maybe if you want to share something that you felt was disappointing, tell us what you think.
I think the most surprising thing was the genuine emotion I felt the first time I saw an online review from a reader for my book, and that they really got it. It's just that it just left such a deep impression that these words that I wrote and these pages I'd been editing and going through, that someone I don't know at all on the other side of the country or the other side of the world would be reading it and really get what I was trying to do. It sounds a little earnest and corny, but it's really true. It really left a deep impression on me. I think another big surprise that was just an absolute delight is the crime fiction community, like Mystery Writers of America, Sisters in Crime, thriller writers. Everyone is so supportive, and it's just also a very interesting, smart group of people. I think people who choose to write mysteries and crime fiction thrillers are they're a fun bunch, let's say. they're really interesting.
They are. In fact, I think some things that surprised me about the community I think we're increasingly getting more diverse, which is super exciting, but also there's a diversity of like genre or writing interests. Like not everyone shows up to for instance, writing the same kind of thing. There's an overlap that we have in common, but someone may be writing a cozy, someone may be writing a thriller, somebody may be writing psychological suspense. So there's like a variety in the way that we are all kind of tackling maybe, you know, similar, you know, at the base, similar material. I think that's always been super cool.
And I think also like in terms of the maybe less positive aspect, because I really appreciate it when authors like Alex Michaelides, Sean Cosby, they're authors, S.A. Cosby, who are really open about their writing journey. And it really helped me before. Riley Sager, for example, he was trying to write get jobs at like cat or dog food companies and getting rejected. And then he wrote his novel. It's just amazing. Like those are just so relatable. Um, I think for me, the biggest challenge in the last couple of years has been not moving the goalposts, trying to
Mhm.
celebrate wins and trying to be happy, because it's so difficult when you reach one level, like you just want to finish the draft and then you just want to
Mhm.
get an agent and then you just want to sell the book. But then you sell the book and you see all of these other debuts around you, or like the Reese Witherspoon book club pick or the New York Times bestseller. And you're like, oh, wait, there's always like something else that you want to achieve, and you have to learn to be happy and take time to celebrate what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a two-pronged thing. One is you have to, you do have to learn to celebrate your wins. By the way, I'm giving that advice, and I'm absolutely terrible at it myself. So here I am. It's like a thing that I need to work on. But I think the other part of it, and the part of that I think I am good at, is finding other community members who may feel the same way
Yeah,
and connecting with them and realizing you're far from alone. In fact, you may be the majority with a community that feels that way, because it is hard, and you have to write a great book, but then you have to be amazingly like lucky as well to get,
exactly.
and for one of those like big promo gets. So I think that you eventually have to sort of turn or to the community and say, hey, should I be feeling this way? They're like, yeah, we all feel this way, and then you get a drink. It's all better.
And I love when authors kind of pull back the curtain, like Rob Hart, who wrote Assassins Anonymous. He's great. And his book was optioned by Steven Spielberg, like before. It's all these amazing things, one after another. And then he did his newsletter and he revealed in his Substack that he had had other big deals. And it wasn't all champagne and roses. Like it just wasn't the way it appeared
Right.
necessarily. And what he did, and what everyone tells me to do, is to just keep writing.
Yeah.
You develop a backlist, you develop, just experience, you get better, and then you build an audience. So I think that's the only thing that's in your control as a debut author, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Is
that's so
keep writing.
true. Like you do ultimately have to come down to the sort of idea that certain things are outside of your control as a writer, and then what things you can do that are within your control. And I think great advice to sort of say, just keep writing.
Yeah.
And speaking of, have you taken your own advice? Are you working on the new right now?
I am. My next project is also a psychological thriller, and it's featuring multicultural characters. It's a workplace thriller. And that's all I'll say for now.
That's fine.
It might draw from my experience in the beauty and fashion industries. Maybe.
Ooh, I'm there for that. I can't. I think that's new Demi Moore movie, isn't it? Sort of I mean, it's a horror movie, right? It's
The
sort of about
Substance.
substance. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to
I'm
see it.
dying to
That's
see it.
right.
That and the Nicole Kidman movie. I want to see both those.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, Demi Moore is great. It's good. It's really fun to be able to go see a Demi Moore movie. So, yay, our generation. So, since we have to sort of wrap things up here a little bit, I would love to end a little bit. Like, since you're a member of NWA, like, what do you value about belonging to this organization? I mean, we talked a little bit about community, but is there anything outside of that you would say, you really value?
It's community, and also because MWA is it's such a respected organization. The Edgar
Mhm.
Awards, the juries,
Yeah.
all the work that's put into judging the books. It's not just you know, a I think that they take a really great critical approach. It's a serious organization. It's a respected organization. So being part of that, uh, as a professional organization just means a lot to me. And it's a wonderful way to network and meet other people in your local chapter. And they have national events. It's just been really great because writing is a pretty solitary endeavor. So it's wonderful to have that network and these other authors and the resources around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it has a sort of wealth of history, and I agree that jurors are, we were talking about jury award here, so this is really
Mhm.
being by your peers, and
And
that's
you get this
always.
really cool pin when you join
And,
done.
and you have swag, like you have really cool swag. We could probably, I don't know, find a T-shirt or something. I don't know. Thank you so much for letting me interview you, and all those folks out there. Please run out and get KT's amazing debut. And I am excited for the next book.
Thanks, John. Thanks. I loved Hall of Mirrors.
Oh, thanks.